Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mindwatch. I am Dan.
I am Thomas.
Yes. And we are here today to make you think in a fun and positive way.
Actually, let me try out my French real quick.
Okay.
Bonjour. Je m'appelle Thomas. Thank you.
Guten Tag. Ich heiße Dan.
Das ist gut. Das ist gut.
Das ist gut.
All right, enough with the funny accents.
I don't know. You're the actor. You do accents. You actually do accents so very well. Like that's it. That is literally that is literally one of your specialties.
You know what's so funny is that over the weekend, over at Talia's folks' place, I was just doing random accents because I was just like, trying to pass the time or whatever. And they were like, "You're actually really good at that." And I'm like, "Thanks. I just do it for fun."
No, but your accents are good. Like that's also on your resume is that you've got accents for your acting stuff.
Yeah, I do. I did actually, because remember the Russian role that I played? I had to do a Russian accent for that. That was literally
so good.
Copying Russian people online and just like trying to copy how they sound.
I know, but you did really, really, really well. But your accents are really good. I mean, that's something that, especially when you I know you're starting to try out for voiceover stuff. That's really going to complement it really well. Yeah. It's one of the things I love when I listen to a good reader on a book on tape is all the different accents and stuff that they can do. It really makes everything come to life.
More immersive. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so let's not bore people with our back and forth talk because it's
back out of the rabbit hole.
It's what we will do for a while. But okay, so Thomas, here we go. Let's talk about this because this is something that everybody, regardless of age, can identify with. So my alarm went off this morning and I did not want to wake up. I was just very tired. I was very cozy. So I am in South Florida. Thomas is in Atlanta, but I'm in South Florida and it has been raining for probably about 2 days straight. And right now I'm looking out the windows and it is gloomy and windy. I mean, I kind of like this weather, but it was gloomy. It is gloomy and rainy. And this morning it was that way too. And I really didn't want to wake up. And I kind of had to force myself to wake up. And I was kind of oh, I don't feel like going to work. Right? Have you ever had those days?
That is every day of my life. No, I'm saying it's not every day, but yeah, I think all of us definitely have those days. Especially because here in Atlanta, it's beautiful and sunny. It's a brisk 62 degrees, an absolute perfect day to be outside, right?
Yeah.
But those blankets that I have on my bed are extremely comfortable.
They are actually
I'm
very
literally staring at the beautiful view from my bed because I don't want to leave.
I know. So let's take this a little deeper, right? I think everybody can identify with the fact that sometimes we just don't want to get out of bed. We just are cozy, right? What about those days though, Thomas? And we've all had this where you don't want to wake up because I don't want to go to work, or I hate my job, or I hate life, right? If I'm really depressed and I just don't like life, or, why wake up? Who cares? That type of stuff.
Yeah.
How do we kind of counteract that? Okay, hold it. Hold it. So follow my train. So if we get to the point where and we've all been there, where we don't want to get up because we're depressed, or we don't want to get up because life just doesn't make sense.
Or you're thinking about something in the far future or something in the past, or yeah.
Right. So is there something that we can do to prevent us from getting to that point? And I'm not talking about, there is a huge population, right, that suffers from clinical depression and suffers from, chemical imbalances in the brain and stuff. And I'm not talking about that. I mean, that's a medical issue. Let's not go there. You and I are not doctors. I'm
a theater major. I know nothing about neuroscience or psychology or anything like that. It's just
Right. You and I are both certified mindfulness coaches. I'm a certified life coach as well. That's the normal day to day. I'm not a doctor. So
we're students of this kind of stuff.
exactly. So is there something that we can do so that we don't get to the extreme point of, I don't want to get out of bed because I'm too depressed?
Yeah. Yes, there is. But first, before I get into specific things that you can do before you get to a certain point, the first and foremost, the most important thing you need is the desire to break out of it.
I love that. Hold on, say that again, because that, sir, is key.
So before you can make any kind of steps to break out of the traps or the mental traps of not wanting to get out of bed, whether it be literally or metaphorically, is you have to have the desire in order to want to break out of that trap. Because my thing is like, I can only help, or we can only help people who want to be helped, and I can only give advice to people who want to get there. And I know it can be a little bit more gray than that because there are people who intend to do that, but it's just, it's very hard for them to do so. But yeah, so you have to have the desire in order to break out of those traps before you can even begin the process.
All right, that is so good. So again, I'm going to go back to our mentor, Lisa. I gave a story one time that she was speaking with someone that she's close with. And Lisa also is, life coach, mentor. And it's somebody that she was constantly giving advice to. And they wanted the advice, but they didn't want
to apply it,
right? So they would take the advice, but they would never follow the advice. And Lisa gave an example. She said, okay, so if I've got like a hand full of like bread, and every time I give you advice, that's my bread I'm giving to you, my sustenance that I'm giving to you. And I'm going to continue to give you this bread. I have crumbs left. This is my last morsel, my last bit of food. But I'm going to give it to you, but I will not give it to you if you're not going to eat it. And I think that has stuck with me. This years ago, like before she even moved, she gave me this analogy, and I was like, that's such a good analogy because people like us and just people in general, right? You're always going to have those people that people go to for like advice, and it's like, I will give and I will give and I will give. But if you're not at some point going to take it, why am I giving it to you? So I like the fact that you said that, Thomas. That's huge for me. And that's a really good observation.
Yeah, because then it really, because like once you clear that understanding out of the way first, then you can really take the steps forward in order to help that person, whoever is seeking that kind of advice. And then I think the second thing, once we decide that, okay, I do want to break out of this trap, I do want to break out of this rut that I constantly feel like I'm in every day. So the first thing I think is important is that, so when you first start meditating, right? The most important thing, at least from what I have gathered from, years of meditating and learning from Lisa and listening to our meditations and meditations from other resources, is having the awareness first, developing an awareness. And what I mean by developing an awareness, because that's a very vague term or just like set of words, having the awareness of when the negative thoughts enter your brain and just acknowledging them as such. So acknowledging them as just thoughts. They don't really shape you unless you let them shape you. So if you develop that understanding and developing that awareness of the thoughts that enter your brain as just thoughts, then you can really start to like dive deeper into the real specifics of that. It's a very surface level, it's a very surface level thing, but yeah.
Okay, so let's take that one step further then. right, we all love awareness, right? Awareness, the 3 stages of awareness, and we can be aware that we have a negative thought. So how do we deal with that negative thought? Because yeah, I acknowledge it, but then what, right? So here's my suggestion when it comes to something like that. So let's say that you are, and let's just take something very simple, right? Let's say something like, stressed about school, very stressed about school, or I'm stressed about work, okay? Or I'm stressed about something within work or school. And I acknowledge it. Okay, I'm thinking, I'm waking up in the morning and the first thought I have is, gosh, I don't want to go to that test or this meeting or whatever. All right, so I'm aware. Then what? So it's so easy to say, and I've met so many people in life that'll be like, well, just don't have the thought. Just let it pass. Let the negative thought pass through you. Don't fight the negative thought. Okay, well, I don't know about your brain, but my brain doesn't want me to do that. Like my brain's like, yeah, I have this negative thought and I'm just going to continue thinking about it. I'm going to obsess over it. And I'm going to obsess, I'm going to obsess, I'm going to obsess. So we have discussed the idea of imagination, right? And the idea of imagination is one step farther than visualization. Visualization means I'm seeing myself on Mount Everest. Okay, I can see it. I can see
Or
the
Disney.
mountain. I can see me, great. Imagining is using all my senses. So I can feel the cold, I can see the sky, I can smell the fresh snow, right? Like I can touch the ground. Okay. So if I have a negative thought, I'm nervous about something. Using your imagination and creating a visual imagination about that thought not happening, a daydream, if you will, okay, is a way to kind of move past it because you start to change the way that your brain thinks. With imagination, it changes the neural net, the neural pathways in the brain. Okay, so we know that's a science thing.
Yeah.
Right. So if I start to imagine over and over and over again positive outlooks instead of negative outlooks, then it just becomes that I draw that energy in. Right. We daydream all the time. I mean, I was in the shower today, daydreaming about what it would be like if, I won $1 million.
I wish.
Right.
No, that's a really interesting way to put it. And I've never really, I don't know if I've really necessarily done that for myself. Like I've never visualized a negative thought. Like it's just such an interesting way to go for it. But I might give it a try sometime. I'm always open to try different techniques. And I'm going to talk for me personally on something that's helped me a lot over the past few months, especially starting to live on my own, because once you're on your own, you're really kind of stuck with yourself. So it's just you, yourself, and your brain.
Which I'm sure everybody listening has been listening to the past 6 to 7 weeks of Monday meditations, because we have had every week a master class on being with oneself and being one's own best friend and relying on yourself. So that I'm sure has helped you.
Yeah, and getting more comfortable with yourself or seeing yourself in a way that you necessarily haven't before, in a more loving, more compassionate way, which is definitely something that I've learned to do, especially over my lifetime. Because I'm 26 now, going on 27. My frontal lobe complex or whatever is fully developed now. So I'm starting to get awarenesses. One thing that's actually helped me a lot too has been I've been reading a lot more philosophy recently. And I feel like we can incorporate philosophy into any aspect of life, including mindfulness.
Isn't mindfulness just a part of philosophy?
Just a part of philosophy, yeah. So since I've been doing a lot more reading, like I've mentioned a bunch of times that I started reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Which I'm halfway through, by the way.
It's really good, isn't it?
Oh my God,
I love the way the guy reads. He's
love
just
it.
like
Love it.
tempo that he reads.
The audiobook, for those that are listening, of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is free on Audible.
It is. And what's interesting is that he actually never intended this to get published. Like, if you're reading it, it's basically just like a bunch of journal entries of different things he's learned from different people, and then later on interpreting it for himself and putting it in a way that he could become a better leader for the common man, the common woman, or whatever, and just become a better human being in general. And it's very inspiring once you hear like the life stories of some of these philosophers, and it makes you want to be like them. And that's why I've really gravitated towards a lot of these different philosophers and their way of thinking. So once you gravitate towards one specific way of thinking, the more you dive deeper into it, the more interested I became in it. And I really try to apply it. I make a conscious effort to apply it to my everyday life. So I'll give an example. So the thing that encapsulates meditations the most, simply put, control only the things that you can control, right? And essentially, the only thing that we can control is the way we react to situations or the way we process informations. Everything else that happens outside of our physical material bodies is out of our control. How someone reacts, events that happen, whatever. The only thing we can control is how we respond or is how we process that information. So as soon as you have that awareness, which I've developed, I always take a step back whenever I find myself getting anxious or overthinking about something, and I say, hey, you know what? The way that this upcoming situation plays out, it's going to play out the way it was meant to play out. And I'm only going to do what I can do. And that just, having that thought, it just really releases a lot of anxiety in my body, knowing that you can only control one thing, and that's yourself.
Okay, but let's take that one step further. Because yes, you're 1,000% right. You can only control what you can control. You cannot control anything else. But what if I harness how I control?
Yeah.
So follow this. You're nervous about an audition. Okay. And you go through, I can only control what I can control. I have memorized, what they've given me to audition with, right? So I've memorized that, and I've worked on character. I've done that, and I can only go in. I can do my best. If they like me, they like me. If they don't, they don't. There's nothing I can do about that, right? That's essentially what you're saying. If I applied it in that kind of situation, I can only control what I can control. And if they say sorry, I can still be like, well, I'm really grateful for the audition, or I'm grateful for the chance, right?
Yeah, and I still say, like, I still feel really good about this audition, and I'm putting out hopeful energy, but I'm not expecting anything in return.
Okay, but what if we change that?
Hmm.
This is what I'm saying. So if I went in to the audition, and prior to the audition, I'm nervous, right? I'm nervous about this audition. And prior to the audition, I go through a 15-minute visualization about me auditioning, about the director or casting director, like saying, oh my God, this guy is great. I fit the role perfectly. They are so impressed that they cancel all other auditions and hand it to me on the spot. And I'm just sitting there, and how does that feel? Like, I can see it. I can hear them offering me the position. I can feel like, wow, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to start this job. I can even process the fantastic reviews that the critics are going to give me, right? And I go through this whole thing. Now, yeah, that's a story. It's my story, right? The fact is I have an audition. What goes on prior to and as a result of is my story. So, but I've created this story, and I've created this imagery so that as I go into the audition, I'm going in feeling, I got this. They've already offered to me. I already feel excited. So Mozart used to, one of the things that frustrated the people that commissioned him was the fact that he was not great about writing his music down on paper. Because for him, he would always say, well, yeah, the opera's done. And like, okay, where is it? Here.
Yep.
But
like,
it's done. because he already had it finished in his head. He had already played it. Every part was orchestrated. Everything was done. Okay. He just had to write it on paper. So if I'm going to go into an audition, it's done. All I have to do is do the audition. So if I'm nervous about a test, or I'm nervous about a meeting with a client, or I'm nervous about, whatever. If I harp on the nerves, I'm going to create more nerves. But if I don't acknowledge, like you said, Thomas, I have to be at least aware, like, okay, I'm aware I'm having a negative thought. But instead of just being aware of having a negative thought, I tackle that negative thought with one, what you said, I can only control what I can control. I can't control anybody else. I can't control anybody else's way of being. I can't control anybody else's way that they react. I can't do that, right? Nobody has our personal script. 2, I acknowledge I can't control it, but 2, I'm going to create a story that fits me and fits my script, my desired end result.
Yeah. So I have a question about that actually. So in what way can you develop or create your own script without it leading to disappointment? Like, let's say you create this script and this whole image in your head, and you're manifesting it and it doesn't come back. How do you separate creating the script from what reality could possibly bring to you?
Well, who says it's not going to? So let's use an example of something that happened in your life. You tried out for a show when you were in college and you didn't get the part. But because of the type of individual you were, the team player that you are, and the kind, compassionate, talented, respectful individual that you are, a spot opened and they gave it to you. So you may not have gotten the one part that you wanted, but as a result, you got the part you needed. You were on stage a lot more. You created multiple characters, including characters that audience members remembered, choral members, but audience members remembered you and this unusual character, to the point that the director even complimented you. You also, 3, got to come face to face with my love of dancing is not all there, and my butt's going to be kicked.
And
but you overcame, right? But you overcame a lot of self-talk that you couldn't do it. I'm not a dancer. I can't do it. But yet,
I'm not a dancer. I'm a mover.
Yes, but you did not move. Your ass was dancing on stage. That was a movement. Okay. None of that would have happened if you got the original role. Yeah. But as a result of that not happening, this happened. Yeah. So if I'm imagining going into this audition and I don't get this audition, who's to say that my imagining, that the energy I'm putting out into the universe isn't going to bring me something else? What if I didn't get this role, but a month later, I tried out for another role that was like a lead blockbuster action-packed, here's $2 million role. But if I would have accepted the first one, I wouldn't have gotten the second one, which was going to move my career in this trajectory that an Oscar was coming into your hand.
I'm ready for my John Wick role. I am ready for it.
Okay. And I'm ready to be thanked at the Oscar speech. So, but do you see what I'm saying? So yeah. I get what you're saying, and I do, right? But if we put out, if the audition comes back and it's not what we had envisioned and imagined, and our first response is, seriously, this whole imagination thing just doesn't work, then you're right. Because whatever you say is right.
Yeah.
or it didn't, or it's, yes, it does work. And it's the perfect thing is coming.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add on to
Continue,
that.
and I'm gonna continue imagining.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add on to that earlier when I was talking about awareness. You can develop this script and how it plays out in your head, but also having the awareness that it's your own script. It's not material. You have that awareness that it may or may not be the outcome, but you're essentially putting out that energy into the universe.
No. It is the outcome. It may not be this part, but it is the outcome. That's the key. We have to make sure that we're constantly putting out, it is the outcome.
Yeah, I was just thinking of I was just thinking of it in a very like logical way.
Yeah, but
Trying to like
sometimes,
separate it all, you know.
sometimes I think you and I both have realized that sometimes if we go step by step, that's not the way it needs to be. It needs to be holistically.
Yeah.
And is that more left brainy person? I get that. But we have to sometimes be a little bit more right brain and look at things holistically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a little behind the curtain. So Thomas and I did not have this planned out. First of all, we never plan our podcast.
We don't need it.
No, we plan like what we want to do, but we don't script it, I think is the better
Yeah,
way.
because we want it to feel more conversational. Because this is just like if we were just sitting out the couch at home having a conversation about this. This is typically how our conversations just go. And that's kind of like the idea behind a podcast, and that's the feel that we wanted to give.
So our original thought was to give steps and tools so that we could, wake up every day with a positive frame of mind instead of negative, but it didn't really go that way. But I love where it went. So our next podcast in a month, guys, we will give some tools, and now I will start to incorporate that in some of the meditations.
We'll talk more about morning routines next time.
Yes, we will. But I really love this conversation of where it went. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah. That's what happens. You circle back to one point, and then we just fall down a rabbit hole, and we get so invested in the conversation we forget what our original topic was.
Exactly, which is half the fun. So I love it. So, all right, everybody. I hope everyone has a really good week. And don't forget that on Sunday is our next affirmation. So sign up on our website, mindfullme.org. That's mindful with 2 L's. And on Monday will be a new meditation, and next podcast after this one will be Ben and Bren. So they'll be talking about some great nutritional stuff. Always fun to listen to them. And keep your eyes out, because June 12th through the 15th will be another in-person retreat. We just had our spring break retreat down in Fort Lauderdale that Thomas flew in for. It was awesome. It was really awesome.
Much needed relaxation, let me tell you.
Yeah, for everybody, right? So, and our next one is going to be in June. Our location is going to be decided actually by tomorrow. So, which will be the, what's today? We're recording on the 11th. So on the 12th, by the time this drops, we'll have a location. So keep checking our website, subscribe, give us ideas, things you want us to talk about, but please like and subscribe on all of our venues.
Yes,
Sound
please.
cool? All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great couple of weeks.
Have a great week.
Oops. You know what? It's a great week, and when I hit the correct button to stop the recording. Bye, guys.
We're going to edit that out in post.